Has Honda finally got itself a Toyota RAV4 Beta? And why does Honda need two medium SUVs? We're going to answer those questions and more in this very video. I'm Glenn Butler from Drive, and this is the all-new Honda ZR-V. Now this could get confusing, so bear with me. The all-new Honda ZR-V is a medium SUV and it's going to be priced from $40,200 up to $54,900. So it'll sit above the HR-V small SUV in Honda's range in both size and price, but it overlaps the Honda CR-V for both size and price. But it is not a replacement for the Honda CR-V, and neither is Honda going to sell two medium SUVs at once. That's because later this year the CR-V will be replaced by a bigger and all-new CR-V that will still be classified as a medium SUV but will be at the larger end of the scale. So, if we just fast forward to 2024, it will all make sense. Honda will have the HR-V small SUV, the ZR-V medium SUV and the CR-V medium to large SUV in dealerships, covering three of Australia's most in-demand SUV market segments. But right now it's a bit confusing because Honda has two medium SUVs, one called the ZR-V and the old one that we know as the CR-V. Honda's rivals in this space include the Toyota RAV4, the Mitsubishi Outlander, Mazda CX-5, Hyundai Tucson, Nissan X-Trail and 18 other medium SUVs, all fighting for your dollar. Now what do we think of the Honda ZR-V's styling? Well, for starters, it's a big departure from the Honda CR-V and the HR-V. Car designers tend to use the grille, headlights and bumper to create something of a brand signature that is then adapted to each car in the range. This ZR-V looks nothing like the HR-V small SUV or the CR-V from the front, new or old for that matter. In fact, that fish mouth-shaped air intake makes it look more like the Ford Escape. Now the rear also doesn't pay homage to any other family members from the Honda SUV range either, but it has more character to me than the front. Now, if you thought Honda had a penchant for alphabet soup when it came to naming their different SUVs, you'd be right, and it doesn't get any easier when we delve into the range, so I've written it down so you can digest it better. We start off with the VTI-X base model, then we move up to the VTI-L. After that, we've got a VTI-LX, and if you thought you got a handle on it, you'd be wrong, because the top spec is the EHEV. Now, one thing is for certain, all of these prices are drive away, and because it's Honda, there's also no haggling. This means the ZR-V starts around $4,300 dearer than the current cheapest CR-V. But it's also worth noting that that current CR-V is an 8-year-old car. So not only does the ZR-V have a much newer technology and modern-day quality offering, it's actually better equipped. And because next year's CR-V will be bigger and more modern again, its pricing will also go up. For a full rundown of the specs, check out my review at Drive.com.au. Now, all four ZR-V variants in the range share this same 5-door medium SUV body, and it measures 4.56 metres front to back, 1.84 metres wide, and 1.62 metres tall. Those measurements are a tiny bit less than the current CR-V, quite a bit less than the next generation CR-V we will see in a few months, and it's a bit bigger than the small HR-V. Next year's all-new CR-V is 13 centimetres longer, 2.5 centimetres wider, and 7 centimetres taller, so the ZR-V's dimensions will fit comfortably between it and the smaller HR-V. Now, all ZR-Vs come with alloy wheels. They're 17 inches on the base model. You've got LED headlights with the active cornering function, front and rear parking sensors, and a reversing camera. All others get 18-inch wheels and tyres, power-operated tailgate, 360-degree cameras, and heated wing mirrors. Only the top two specs, however, get body-coloured front and rear bumpers and exhaust pipe finishes. Now, they're important. Okay, now we're sitting in the top spec LX, but if I give you a baseline, all ZR-Vs come with a 9-inch infotainment screen, 10.2-inch driver instrument cluster. We've obviously got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in there. We've got dual zone climate control air conditioning. You get a proximity key and you get a push button start. More expensive model grades add 18-inch wheels, leather upholstery, heated front and rear seats, power adjustable front seats, built-in satellite navigation, 12-speaker Bose Premium Auto, and a wireless phone charger. Now, speaking of connectivity, buyers will also have access to Honda's Connect, which includes a smartphone app with remote locking and unlocking, climate control, preconditioning, an SOS function, and an ability to set speed thresholds for other drivers like teenage offspring. A 5-year subscription is part of the purchase price, after which there is a fee which covers the cost of the car's mobile SIM connectivity. Now, jumping into the back seat, and the first thing I want to talk about is the door. It's quite a narrow aperture and it doesn't open to 90 degrees like some of its rivals. But once in, you're pretty comfortable in here. I've got a decent amount of knee room. I've got really good under-seat leg room. Headroom is, let's call it okay. I'm 5'9" for the record. 6-footers might be rubbing. But the one area where this is a little bit deficient is the floor in comparison to the seat base is quite high. So I don't have a lot of under-thigh support. Now, as for creature comforts back here, we've obviously got seat back map pockets. We've got a couple of air vents here and a couple of high-speed USB-C chargers. I've also got cup holders in the armrest and bottle holders in the door. Okay, now you saw me kicking the boot to open before, but on all but the base model, you also get a button which lifts it up. Once in here, we've got 380 litres of space. Or if you've got the leather interior like this car, it's only 370. Fold the seats down 60-40 and it goes up to 1,312 or 1,302. Under the floor in this one is nothing. You've got a tyre repair kit because this is the hybrid. Under the floor in other models, you get a space saver spare, which is decent, but not brilliant. Mechanically, let's deal with the VTI variants first, as they're the non-hybrids, whereas the EHEV is a hybrid. The standard powertrain is a 130 kilowatt, 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that drives the front wheels exclusively through a continuously variable transmission. Now, Honda claims a peak torque of 240 newton meters, and they say it's on tap between 1,700 and 4,500 RPM, which does make the ZR-V a relatively effortless car to drive. Not the fastest car in the world, far from it in fact, but in terms of everyday driving, it's got enough grunt to do what you need. Now, as I said, powertrain performance is not scintillating, but let's keep in mind what this car is designed for. The engine is teamed with a CVT, or continuously variable transmission, which means it doesn't have gears as such. When you put your foot on the throttle, the harder you press, the higher it revs, because it's choosing from two infinitely connected ratios to give you the kind of acceleration that it can. Initial acceleration off the mark is not the kind that's going to chirp the wheels, even though this is only front wheel drive. But in everyday driving, it's got enough to accelerate with meaning, and on the highway, it's got enough grunt there to keep you moving. The ride quality in general is very good. In fact, all the NVH elements of this car, noise, vibration, harshness, are really quite good. This is a quiet cabin, easy to have a conversation with people in the other front row seat or even in the back row. There's not a lot of wind noise coming through, but it does tend to fall down a little bit on coarse chip bitumen. The Yokohama tyres fitted to this car can become quite noisy. And when the road gets a bit grumpy, the ride does too. This car just lacks a bit of that suppleness that soaks up initial hits on some of its rivals. The steering, it's electric steering, and it is excellently weighted and consistent. On the 18-inch cars, that is. I mean the cars with 18-inch wheels and tyres. They're not 18-inch cars, that would be ridiculous. On the 17-inch wheels and tyre package on the base model, the steering is not as convincing. If we were in the hybrid version, we'd have a 2-litre non-turbocharged 4-cylinder engine paired with a small electric motor that raises system outputs to 135 kilowatts and a useful 315 newton meters. Now, fuel consumption, I've driven both the hybrid and the pure petrol car today over some decent lengths. The hybrid returned 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres, which is just below Honda's claim of 5 and is really quite respectable. To be honest though, today's driving was what I'd call low impact or low level of difficulty. And after 100 kilometres or so in the non-hybrid, the 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol, I was averaging about 6.8 litres per 100 kilometres, which again is below Honda's claim of 7.2. But again, we're talking about low level of difficulty driving. And I reckon if you took either of these cars into a predominantly urban environment, you're probably going to go up by about 10 or 15%. But even then, we're talking mid-5s for the hybrid and maybe mid to high 7s for the non-hybrid. Very respectable numbers indeed. Now, two other areas we need to talk about are safety and ownership costs. the Honda ZR-V's safety credentials are compromised because Honda has limited the availability of some important features to the more expensive models. Every ZR-V has autonomous emergency braking, it has lane keep assist, active cruise control, traffic sign recognition, and inside you've got 11 airbags protecting you, including a front center bag and a driver's knee bag. But only the top two variants in the range get blind spot awareness and rear cross traffic alert. And to me, that's a bit of a missed opportunity. I mean, Honda would argue that there's a fair bit of safety in this car for starters, and they're right, but those two features are on some of the competition from the base model up. And I personally have a little bit of an issue with car companies that charge more for increased safety. I think safety should be a given. Now, our last topic, warranty and servicing. The ZR-V comes with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty that also includes 5 years of 24/7 roadside assist, which is competitive. What's not competitive is Honda's decision to stick with 10,000 kilometre servicing intervals, especially given the Australian national average is 11,800 kilometres per year. That means you're going to be taking your Honda back for servicing once every 10 months or so. So every 5 years, it's going to be back there twice. Honda's servicing costs are capped at $199 per visit, which does make them among the cheapest in the entire auto industry. So overall, the Honda ZR-V is an impressive car that measures up well against its main rivals, particularly for value for money and running costs. It seems to be aimed at families with young kids or retirees who won't use the back seat much because that high floor in the back compromises comfort for adults. Other than that, and Honda's decision to reserve some safety features to more expensive variants, there's a lot to like with the new ZR-V. And once the new and larger CR-V arrives later this year, Honda will have a strong 3-pronged SUV portfolio that should win customers with its fuss-free motoring promise. So there you go, that's a quick look at the Honda ZR-V. Now the first two questions, I hope you understand how Honda is not going to have two overlapping medium SUVs. They will be distinctly different. And as for whether this is a Toyota RAV4 rival, we'll have to wait for the comparison to find out. So that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit the like button. And if you've got some opinions to share, get into the comments and let's go. Please make sure you subscribe to Drive and hit the notification bell so that when Drive drives new cars, you hear about it first.